Speaking about CP/M and Apple, that's a segue into software. Leslie, how have you documented the history of software and for what type of machines? Note that the Computer History Museum, as per our October 9th meeting, says that they've been working on that for a long time and they have a secret project that'll be released once it's funded on documenting the history of software.
I'm actually handing that one over to Henry, who's been doing
Okay.
the software forever.
Fine.
Well, excuse me, I missed a little bit while I was having
What
a
do
little
we have
water.
on
Who has the
software?
secret
How have
project?
you documented the
CHM.
history of software? And is it assembling language, higher level language, compilers, assemblers, editors, etc., and for what types of machines? Personal computers, mini computers, mainframes, etc.
I would say, generally speaking, we're very strong on the personal computer side. We're very strong on game software, so consoles and all of that. We have, there we do have the largest collection in the world. Less so on, certainly much less so as regards to the mainframe world. And there...
Yeah, because there were never any mainframes here.
Exactly, and that would be, so Minnesota, Charles Babbage Institute, where that was...
Or Armonk, New York,
would have...
IBM.
Yeah, so one of the interesting things is that we're in a great location for our collections, and they're in a great location, the Babbage Institute is as well. There are unfortunately some regions in the country that that were incredibly important, but do not have institutions that are working on the history of those regions. Now, New York's an interesting one because it's difficult for me to point to an archive in New York that said, we're going after the high-tech industry in New York. Likewise, Texas. There isn't a single institution in Texas that said, we're the regional repository for technology in Texas. So it's kind of, again, what historians do is they make a lot of choices about what they're going to work on and what topics to pick. And one of them might be, I'm going to do Silicon Valley or I'm going to do the mainframe industry in Minnesota because there are repositories there that are collecting the materials. Whereas doing work on IBM and Armonk and finding a repository that's going to be open to researchers in the same way that Charles Babbage or Stanford is going to be much more difficult. So I won't do that project. My choice will be to work on the collections, to work on the topics where collections are available and institutions are available to work with me on them. Which is kind of an unfortunate thing in a way that nobody really institutionally has stepped up in some of these other places around the country.
And that's a little bit behind the phenomenon that you were describing earlier about people who tend to write a book that is actually dependent entirely on a previous book. And it's precisely the same reason, which is that someone has carved out that space in front of them, and it's so much easier to just glide down that established path than to sort of go off and start foraging on your own.